live. How you doing?
That quick.
That quick, just like that.
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. Wonderful.
Good. Well, it's good to be here.
Yeah?
Yeah?
You just recently sold your house, right?
Yes, I did.
How was that?
Boy. You know what? You don't have any idea until you're in there. I remember thinking, what should I do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, people were selling their houses so quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then there came a little pause. And then I thought, I've missed my chance.
Right.
So I said, oh, well, I still got a house. I'm still living in the house. I'm still enjoying the house. So, but then I was thinking, wait a minute. Maybe I didn't miss my chance. Maybe I should try to go ahead and sell it because the prices were really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I just sat there one day and I said, you know what, Lord? If you want me to sell my house, you'll let it happen. If you don't want me to sell my house, you'll stop it. So I picked up the phone and I called. I saw a commercial on television and I called Ideal.
Mm-hmm.
They only charge 2% instead of what is the going rate, like 6% commission?
Yeah, 6 or 7%, I think. Yeah.
Right. I thought, man, 2%? I should do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt good about it. So I called, and this guy, he was very nice. His name was Ty. And he came out. He explained everything to me. And he told me, he said, I got a real good feeling about this. That made me feel a little more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
So then I said, you know, let's do it. And then he looked at me and he said, what made you do this? I'm like, I didn't expect to get that question.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat there for a minute and I said, you know what? I'm 80 years old. This house is big, have a pool, have a casita. It's a lot to keep up with. 4-bedroom house.
Right.
So I said, you know, I think it's just time. I'm a little bit nervous about it. And I said, how long am I going to be under contract? And he said, 6 months. 6 months? I wasn't expecting that. I figured maybe 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So we went with it. I signed the papers. We wait. He gives us a couple of weeks to get things the way we need to get them for people to come in. And, you know, not that it was a lot to do, but because I keep a pretty clean house and all, but, you know, maybe it was a little bit too busy. Pictures everywhere. And
yeah,
they don't really like personal pictures like your children, your grandchildren, and that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, because it's hard for people to imagine living in a house with other people's pictures in it.
Right. So I had to go ahead and I got this one container, and this is funny because, you know, I'm a grandmother. I have a lot of grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe that I filled up that container, and it's a big container, of all the pictures that I had displayed all over the house, even in the bedrooms. But anyway, getting back to the story of selling my house, I finally get a hold of Ty and I tell him we're ready for them to come out and take pictures and all that. This nice lady came and she did pictures inside, outside, and even overhead with one of those drone things.
Yeah.
And that went well. And then we're finally open to show the house to people. And the very first family we showed the house to, they bought it.
Mm-hmm.
You believe that? And I thought I made the right decision because everything is going along so smooth. And I felt like the Lord was with me through all of this. You know how I feel about the Lord and all.
Mm-hmm.
And He guides me in what to do. It was all going so good. And then all of a sudden, we have to have everything inspected.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
The fun part.
I built my house in 2005. I've taken very good care of my house all those years.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, no problem. They're not even going to find anything wrong.
Right.
Nope. They found something wrong. It was little things.
Nothing major.
Nothing major, but just getting the right people, calling around, and I did have to put some money out, like little things like the fireplace, and
Yeah.
there was something wrong with the water heater. It was a little corroded, just little nitpicking things, but all of that went well. We got through that. And now I'm in a rental. And yet, the house is not mine. It's been sold. I got exactly what I asked for.
Mm-hmm.
So everything was so smooth, really.
Is it kind of scarily smooth?
Yeah.
Like it's strange how smooth everything went?
Yeah. And so that convinced me more and more that the Lord was looking out for me during this whole thing, because he could have stopped it at any time.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't. And then now I'm in the rental, and the moving is a big thing. You've got all this stuff to pack up and take it over and then unpack it.
Yeah.
And the house that I sold with the casita and everything was almost 3,000 square feet. Not quite. I think it's like 29 or something like that. But anyway, then I went into a house that's only 1,700 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can't put everything. So you have to give away this or do this, or I still got stuff outside that I had in my other house inside, but
Oh, so you're not done sorting through everything?
still got stuff out in the backyard that I gotta give away or do something with.
Mm.
But the funny thing is, it's so strange because I was in that house since 2005, and 3 of my grandchildren were raised in that house.
Mm-hmm.
And the memories of, all of us getting together and at different times of the year.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to let go.
And I'm still thinking about the house. I'm out of it. It was sold. I already have the money that I made off of it. Why can't I let go of that house?
Is this move a lot different from all the other moves you made in your life?
Absolutely. A lot different. Because all of the other places that I lived in, when I drove away, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go back. I didn't look. This one, I've already been back over there to see if the people have moved in. And they had not moved in yet. And I'm looking at my house, which is not my house, and I'm thinking, you poor thing. Because I'm saying that to a house. But it was sitting there all alone. And when I think about it, 2005, I moved in that house with my daughter and her 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
The house was always full. There was a lot going on all the time. Other relatives coming in and out, of us all getting together and having pool parties and things like that, having such a good time. And now I'm looking at the house and there's nothing going on. It's sitting there all alone. And I'm feeling kind of sad. And then I'm thinking, why am I doing this to myself? Because everything went so smooth, really. And why can't I let go of this house? And then I realized it's not the house.
It's all the memories within the house.
I'm thinking about all the memories. And did I make the right decision?
Do you think you made the right decision?
Now that I've had time to accept that it's not mine,
Mm-hmm.
I think I made the right decision. Because I'm 80 years old, like I said before, and I don't have as much that I have to take care of in this rental. It's a lot smaller, a lot less to clean up. I don't have a pool. I don't have to think about who's going to be taking care or living in the casita or whatever. So I know I made the right decision. But I still think about, there's a pool in the backyard and there's nobody here in this house. And you have to put water in the pool ever so often. And if you don't put water in the pool, the pump is going to burn up because you got to have water circulating.
You shouldn't worry about that. It's not your problem no more.
I know it's not, but I can't seem to let go because I cared so much of everything that I did take care of in that house.
Is it the longest place you lived in?
Yeah.
It's what, 17?
It
Almost
was
17 years.
2005, we moved in, and actually it was in November of 2005.
That's why I say almost.
All
Because
right.
November to November would have been 17 years.
Yeah, so, but I know I have to let go of it. But you know what I'm going to do today? Before I go back home to my rental, I'm going to go back to where my home was. And I hope that when I get there, I'm going to be looking at someone in the house and enjoying the house. I hope I don't go back over there and they still hadn't moved in. Because you know me, if I go over there and they still haven't moved in, you know what I'm going to go out in the backyard and check. I'm going to check and see if it needs water in that pool.
But why?
Those things I care about.
I know, but you got to let it go. Be free.
I say that to myself a lot when things pop in my head in the middle of the night. Why are you even thinking about this? Let it go. It's not that important. But please, you or anybody else out there that might be listening to us, please tell me how you do that. I have people that always say to me, you don't need to be worried about that. You need to let go of that. Okay, I'm laying in bed and I can't sleep because this thing's popping into my head and that thing's popping into my head. And I'm like, I don't need to be thinking about all this. Where did it come from? Let it go. Let it go. Okay, how do I do that?
The best way I could tell you is just to do it.
How?
You got to tell them to just go away. Like, you can't just say, leave, I don't want to think about that. You have to, in your head, just say, leave, I don't want to think about that, and I'm not going to think about that. And then you stop thinking about it. And if it comes up again, you just do the same thing. Leave, get out of my head. I don't want to think about that. I'm trying to go to sleep or whatever.
You know what I do? I think, okay, I don't want to think about this right now, whatever it might be. And it's a lot of things that come into my head. First of all, you know that I'm not the typical 80-year-old person. I have lots and lots of energy, and sometimes I don't know what to do with all this energy. I'm a very hyper person, and my mind is constantly going. It's not that I can sit there and just do one thing. I have to be doing 2 or 3 things. Otherwise, I'm not functioning properly. Some people will say, why don't you just do one thing at the time? No, I can do 3 things at the time and get them finished at the same time. So why not do that?
Multitask.
But anyway, I don't even know where we were going with this, but I'm going to try, but I am going to go by one more time just to see if somebody has moved in the house and now they can make their own memories.
Right.
I'm in a rental and I can make memories in that house too. The 3 children that were raised in that house that I just sold are still in the area, and we can still get together and make some new memories.
That's right.
And I hope this family, they're elderly like I am, and they have children, they have grandchildren, and they're going to make lots of memories just like we did. So I feel good about that. And I really do believe that I made the right decision, mainly because I got exactly what I asked for. And I really didn't believe that I would get that.
I mean, why not?
I just didn't think somebody would pay that much money for my house.
Because of the way the market was looking?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that it was possible because other people were getting sometimes even more than they asked for because they got into a bidding war. But where I lived, I just couldn't see that happening. There wasn't a bidding war because the first family that looked at it, they right away put money down so that I could not show it to other people. They wanted it that bad. Come to find out, the main reason that they wanted my house, it was 4-bedroom, plus it had a casita, plus it had a pool. So it had everything that they were asking for. But anyway.
So it was like a perfect situation for you and for them.
Exactly. Because as soon as they heard about it, and they, how you go online and you can actually look at the house because they took pictures and all that. And when they looked at it, and they had been looking for a house for a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they were waiting for a house that had a casita and a pool, and they wanted a 4-bedroom house.
And they saw yours and they're like, that's the one.
That's exactly what we've been waiting for a year. So they came in, they loved it, and now it's theirs.
So now you had a story about when you were 12?
Yes. The reason I wanted to talk about the house is I knew that it would make me remember what happened to me when I was 12 years old. First of all, I'm going to start off with a story. My family at the time was renting a place. My daddy, we lived in Brunswick, Georgia, and my daddy worked at the pulp mill, and we rented a house. When you're small, you think everything is big.
Yeah.
And the house that we lived in, it was just an average home, but it looked to me like it was, a child's imagination, like it was just a big castle.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't. But it was a very nice, comfortable home. And, children don't realize that your parents are renting or they're buying. They don't think about things like that because they don't really care about that. All they care about is they have a nice home to live in, they have a nice bed to sleep in, and they have food to eat, and they can play. And that's about all that a child wants to do. Mm-hmm. So in that house, we lived right across from the school, and also there was a big church there too. It was very convenient that I only had to walk like a block to school, and to go to church it was right across the street. It was perfect, and I really loved that house. And my 12th birthday was coming up, and my mom and dad decided that I could have a party. I had never had one before, and I was very nervous about it because I think, there's nobody going to come to my party. I don't know why I think things like that, but I did. And so here I am. Mama's done all the work, getting the cake ready and planning what we would do at the party and everything. And I'm pacing on the front porch, just pacing back and forth. Nobody's going to come. Nobody's going to come. Nobody's going to come. And I was really scared that nobody was going to come. Well, long story short, everybody I invited came. We had a wonderful time. And I felt so good about showing them our house, and I really liked where we were living. Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm making that point is my daddy came home one day from work, and he said, tomorrow we're all going to take a ride. And that would have been on a Saturday because he was off that day.
Okay. So
we get in the car, and we're thinking, this is exciting, we're going to get surprised of something big, Mm-hmm. So we get in the car, and my mom is saying, where are we going? She said he said it's a surprise. So he didn't really want to say much about it. And we keep going, and we wind up kind of out in the country. And then he pulls up. I noticed that he was making a turn, and he pulls into this driveway. And this driveway, by the way, it was raining that day too. He pulls in this driveway, and it's got all kind of potholes, and it is slimy and dirty and looking terrible. And he pulls in there, and I'm like, why are we coming here? And then I look in the And the front of me, I'm looking out the window, and I'm seeing this house. And I don't like it immediately. I don't like it.
What did it look like?
It looked horrible. It looked like a dump. And all I can think about is, please, Dad, please don't tell me we're moving here. You know, because remember, I loved my home.
Mm-hmm.
And it was big. The rooms were big, and we had plenty of room, and everything was nice. So we keep going down the driveway, and my mom, I remember her looking at my dad and saying, JR, what are we doing here? And I could tell her tone of her voice. She was thinking exactly what I was thinking. And he said, well, surprise, kids. Surprise, honey. I just bought this house. This is going to be our new home.
Oh, he bought it without telling anybody?
He bought it without telling my mother, which was very unusual for my dad. Because my mom was a strong-willed woman. And she pretty much, you might say she pretty much took care of everything. Like, she paid all the bills. You know, she was very organized and pretty much took care of everything. Mm-hmm. My dad didn't have to worry about meals or anything like that. He just went to work, came home and ate, and, you know, and Mom did all the rest. And so she had no idea that he did this. Now, my daddy could see something that none of us could see. And when he said, this is your new home, I could only think of myself, and I started crying. I did not want to leave where we lived. Everything was so convenient. My school was right there. My church was right there. My friends were there. You know, you don't really want to move away from all your friends.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it's a joke, because my dad loved to play jokes on people. He loved it. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, it's just a joke. So the rain was coming down a little bit, and it slacked off. And he said, okay, everybody out of the car, we're going to go look at it. So we're sloshing through the mud, and we go up to this house that's, I can't even tell you how bad it looked.
What kind of house was it?
It was a 4-bedroom, only 1 bath. The bathroom was upstairs. It was an upstairs house. And this is what I can't believe. The front didn't look as bad as the back. The back of the house was horrible. And the people that lived there before, evidently they didn't believe in garbage cans. Because every time they opened up a can of peas or a can of beans or whatever they opened up out of the can, they just threw it out the back door. Now, none of the people on this audience is going to believe this. But there were cans up to my knees.
What?
In the backyard, as far as you could see.
Like the whole backyard?
The whole backyard was full of cans.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, my dad would not do this to me. My dad would not do this to my mother. Please, Dad, start laughing and say, this is a joke. I did not buy this place.
He never started laughing, though,
He never started laughing. He never started laughing. Anyway, so we, honestly, I can't even stand to say it right now. We moved. We moved from my beautiful, big home out in the country to this place. When you're walking in the front room, if you can visualize this, there's just a little tiny foyer. Mm-hmm. You go to the left is a little tiny living room. You go to the right, it's a little tiny kitchen, which, by the way, had at one time been burned, and they didn't even fix it. The wall, you could tell where it was scorched.
Wow.
And all. And that's how the kitchen looked. There was no dining room, just a kitchen, the living room. And then in the middle, there was a fireplace. But it was only functional in the living room part, not in the kitchen part. Mm-hmm. And then upstairs, you only had 2 rooms. Now, at that particular time, there was me, my brother, and I had 2 sisters. And I thought, where are we all going to sleep? It's only 2 bedrooms and a living room and a kitchen. That's it. Well, it wound up that in one of the bedrooms, all the kids were put in that bedroom, and we had a full-size bed, and then we had a twin. My brother had the twin bed, and all of us girls, we had to sleep in the one bed.
That must have been so much fun.
It was a nightmare. Anyway, my dad had a dream. And when he saw that house and he bought that house, he only saw what it was going to become.
Mm-hmm.
He did not see what a 12-year-old little girl saw, which she thought she would have to live in a dungeon like it. It looked horrible compared to what we were living in.
Do you know how much he bought the house for?
Yes. He paid $2,500 for the house and 3 or 4 acres. I can't remember exactly.
Wow.
And now, if you could see, years and years went by, and my daddy and my mom sacrificed, and they saved money. My daddy believed in, we're going to save money, and then we're going to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to go into debt. We're going to build as we have it.
Right.
So they had the first remodel. Then they had the second remodel. And then they had a third remodel. And let me tell you a good story about, I think it was the second remodel, where, remember I told you it was 4 rooms. Daddy wanted to add rooms downstairs and also 2 more bedrooms upstairs. So there would be 4 bedrooms upstairs and 1 bedroom downstairs.
Okay.
And he eventually did all that. But during the remodel, at one point, meant that he had to take the roof off, because now he's got adding 2 more rooms upstairs. And the way he remodeled the downstairs, he still had that foundation, the support of having rooms underneath those rooms that he was adding. And the weather was supposed to be really good that day. And we were all working really hard, and he had some people helping him. And so the roof comes off. And guess what happens?
Oh, it rains.
It started raining. We were just panicked and running around trying to get this thing and that thing to cover up different things, It was unbelievable. But you know what? We were a family. We worked together. We cried together. We laughed together. We were a happy family. And our friends and neighbors were there for us. By this time, we had been living there, for 5, 6, 7 years. And we had got to know all of our neighbors, which happened to be really good people. And some of the people that lived out there actually worked at the same place my dad did, at the pulp mill. And they were right there for us. Anytime we had any problems, you could count on your neighbors, which you don't really see that much today. It's a lot different today than it was back then.
Did you say he works at a pup mill?
Pulp.
Pulp.
P-U-L-P, pulp mill, where they turn wood into paper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pulp. P-U-L-P. Yeah, I'm glad because it probably sounds like I was saying pup.
I thought he
Pulp.
was like,
Pulp.
Shearing dogs and then...
Yeah, no. It was a pulp mill where he was in charge of the maintenance department. And they had these big machinery, different, doing different things. But they actually turned wood into paper. That was their job. So if you could see this house today, which now, unfortunately, it doesn't even belong to anybody in the family, because my mom and dad and some of my siblings have passed away. And the house now belongs to somebody else. I actually met that family that bought the house. Real nice family. So they're making their memories in the house. But if you could just visualize what my dad turned that little 4-bedroom, what I called a dump, into this beautiful house that now has 5 bedrooms, has a dining room, a den, a big living room, a nice kitchen. Now it's 3 bathrooms. So, the story started off bad, but it had such a wonderful ending.
So you, your dad, your mom, all your siblings, you all worked on the house?
We all did. Plus, Daddy had to, some of the things that we didn't know how to do, or Dad just couldn't get to it because, see, the whole time we were doing this remodeling, my dad was still working every day, and he was working in maintenance department at the Brunswick Pulp and Manufacturing Company. That's what it was called. He was there a lot, and there were things that still had to be done. And he did have to hire a few people to do things that he couldn't get to. He probably knew how to do them, but he just didn't have the time.
How many days did he have off? You remember?
A lot of times he didn't have days off because if something shut down at the mill, he had to be there to fix it. He was in charge of the maintenance department. And there were some days that my dad would go to work and we wouldn't see him for like 3 days. He would sleep there.
What?
Yeah, because he was so busy, and that he would have to take a nap because they had to get this big machine working. Otherwise, they couldn't turn the wood into paper.
So just at his job, he would kick back in a chair and take a nap, and then
Well,
wake
he had
up.
a cot. He had his little office there fixed up where he could take a nap. He had a little cot up there. And see, a lot of times he would work like 12, 15, 16 hours, go in there and catch an hour or two, and then go back to work. And one funny thing is, I don't know if anybody knows about what I'm talking about here, but when you're talking about pulp, turning wood into paper, it's got this scent that you don't even want to smell.
What does it smell like? Or is it even comparable to anything?
I think what you would compare it to is rotten eggs, if you've ever smelled rotten eggs.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And and when my dad would come home, my dad loved all of us, and he would want to be around us and all. And we would be like this, holding our nose. Dad, you smell. And it was because of where he worked, but that's just the way it was.
Even after a shower and everything? He'd still...
No. When he first came home.
Okay, I was going to say.
And then, he would leave his clothes out there where Mom had the washer and dryer. It was out on the back porch. And he would, before he'd get in the shower, he would just take all the stinky clothes out there and Mom would wash them. But I don't even know why I was talking about that. Who wants to hear about how stinky my daddy was? Maybe you want to take that part out. But anyway, Brunswick Pulp and Paper Company is the name of it. And I guess the transition of changing, cutting down the trees and turning it into paper is something about, I don't know why it smells so bad, but it does.
And so you guys lived there for 6 years, you said? 6 years?
In the house that
was
remodeled?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Years and years. I was 12 years old, and my dad, they saved up a lot of money. We lived in it, the 4-room house for many years, because my mom and dad had to save up the money to start remodeling.
Right.
And let's see, how old was I when they... let's see, my dad died in 1998, and my mother was still in that house. And
so that was the house I saw.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I was born in 1942. So let's see, it was 1954 when we moved there. I was 12 years old. And my mom was still in that house in 1998 when my dad passed away. And then she died in 2002. And that's when my mom was gone now and my dad was gone. And none of the siblings could afford to buy the house, because now we're talking about a really nice house. That little 4-room house turned into a huge, beautiful home for a family. And now it's 2002, and none of the siblings want or can't afford to buy it. And so we had to sell it.
You know how much it sold for? You remember?
I don't remember exactly, but you've also got to, it's 2022.
Yeah.
And the house prices have gone up astronomical. But that was when she sold, my sister was in charge of everything, and she sold the house in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the exact amount, but it was a little under 300,000. It might have been 260, 270. I honestly don't remember. I remember it was under 300,000 anyway. But today, that same house with the housing going up, it might be worth 4 or 5 or
yeah, I was just about to
600,000.
say $500,000.
Yeah, really nice house. And it's also though in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Houses in Georgia are not as high as they are out here in Nevada. All of the West is a lot higher than the East Coast, the southeastern area. Houses up north are a lot higher. You know, like the New York area and places
way too much.
I mean, you're talking about $1 million and multi-million dollars, you know,
for a tiny little house.
Like my parents' home, what they actually wound up having after remodeling and all. I mean, if that house had been up around New York, I mean, it would be maybe a couple of $1 million. But in Georgia, houses are pretty reasonable.
I can't imagine buying a home for just a little over $2,000 with 3 to 4 acres of land. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Yeah, but see, it was 1954. So, just to give you an example, my husband and we bought our first home in Brunswick. And I think I was like 20. Let's see, how old was I when we bought that house? Got married 26. So I was probably 27, 28 years old. And we bought a brick home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath for $16,000. $16,000. And years later, we're building a house in Arizona. And just the kitchen cabinets cost $16,000.
Wow.
Just the cabinets that we put in the kitchen. So you can see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing. We bought that house for $16,000. And now I just sold my house here in Nevada for $520,000. I mean, it just seems unreal.
Yeah.
Especially since I only paid a little over $200,000 for it. You know, that's just unreal. But anyway, that's what I've been up to, and it's been very exciting and very fulfilling. And I just feel so blessed that I was able to do what I did.
How old were you when you moved away from that home that was remodeled?
I moved away when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
So I lived in that home. See, the remodeling didn't start right away. They actually started remodeling about the time I was going to leave. And I was there. I got married when I was 18 years old, which wasn't the wisest thing to do, but I did. And my parents had saved up a lot of money, and they started remodeling after I had left home. And my brother, he was 3 years older than me, so he was grown, and he was able to help my mom and dad a lot when they started remodeling. And I was always going back home. I didn't live that far away, and when they did start remodeling, we were all able to help him. And see, by that time we were grown, but my sisters, I had 3 sisters younger than me, they were still at home.
And so you still lived in Brunswick at the time?
Yeah, I still lived in Brunswick after getting married for a while. And then the guy that I married was in the military, and I guess it was about a year later, we moved to, actually I don't think it was a year, but a few months, we moved to Jacksonville because he got transferred from Brunswick to Jacksonville. But I would still be close enough. Jacksonville, Florida was only like an hour away from where I used to live. So.
And then after Jacksonville, you moved to where?
After that, we were stationed in Memphis, Tennessee. He had to go to some kind of school there in the military. And now, wait a minute, I might be confused about that. Maybe we moved to Bermuda first. I remember I'd never even been out of Georgia, really. Maybe a little bit out of Georgia. Maybe I went to Tennessee with my family on vacation or something like that. But basically, I had never really left the East Coast. And now all of a sudden, I'm married and I'm going to Bermuda, which I had never been out of the country before. So that was quite exciting.
How long did you stay there?
It was a little over 2 years, and then we went to Memphis, Tennessee, I believe.
Okay.
But we, being in the military, you travel around a lot, and then my husband was away a lot too, and I just feel like when I look back at my life, I'm so blessed because I was able to see a lot before. My husband being in the military, and then later on in years, having the privilege, really, of owning a travel agency. And there's a little story behind that. My husband, he wanted me to get into a job that he felt like that I would like. And I was ready to do that. I was ready to do something different. And he talked to this guy that owned a travel agency. And he said, you know what? I believe my wife would really be good at this. So he said, if I can talk her into it, I noticed on the sign that you were hiring right now. And he said, well, does your wife have any experience? And he said, no, she doesn't. But just trust me. She would be good at this. So he came home and he told me that he had talked to Don. That's the guy's name. And I was like, are you crazy? What do I know about working in a travel agency? I've only been to Bermuda and a few states. What do I know about? There's a big world out there, and look at all the countries, and I don't even know where half of them are, How am I going to be a good travel agent? He said, you've got that personality. You never meet a stranger. You can talk to anybody about anything. And I said, I got to think about this. He said, you don't have time to think. I've already made an appointment for you tomorrow to go and apply for this job. I was like, you are nuts. Why didn't we talk about this before you told him that I would show up? Because, see, that's something about me. If I know I have an appointment, I'm not going to break it. And I'm not going to be late.
Right.
I can't stand to be late. So anyway, I wound up going for the appointment, and I got the job. And I worked with him for about 4 years. And my husband was right. Your grandpa. He was right. That I was good at it. I had the personality that I could... have you ever heard the saying, a gift of gab?
Yeah.
I have it.
Oh, you have it. That's for sure. I have it.
And I learned the business, and I walked into Don's office one day, and I said, Don, can I talk to you a few minutes? And he said, when you going to open your agency? I was like, what? How did you know I was going to come in here and tell you that? He said, you've got that ability. Why wouldn't you do it? He gave me his blessings, and we went to another town and we opened up a travel agency. They didn't have one there. And I was so blessed because that whole time working for him and owning my own business, I was able to travel to places that this little southern girl could never even imagine she would go to.
That business is still open today, right?
And it's still open today. Now, they did change the name.
What was the original name?
The original was American and International Travel, and it was in Perry, Georgia. And now it is in Macon, Georgia. And I can't remember. They named it, their last name became the name of the agency.
Oh, okay.
So they changed it. But if you read the print about the agency, that it'll say there, it used to be American and International Travel from Perry, Georgia. So it's still going.
So where have you been around the world?
Oh, I've been to so many places that I can't tell you every one of them, because that was also a long time ago. I sold my agency in 1998.
Do you have your old passports or anything?
I do still have my old passport, and I did get another, not a passport, but a passport card, because after I retired, I wanted to go to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, you had to have a passport card. I can remember a time when you could go to Canada anytime you wanted to, and you didn't have to have any documentation or anything. Then they started where you would just have to show some identification, like a birth certificate or something. Then you could go into Mexico and you could go into Canada. But all of those things have changed now. You have to have a passport card, or if to go out of the country, like to France or England or anywhere like that, you have to have a full-blown passport. So I've had a passport before, and I've traveled to Europe. I've traveled to China. I've been to Australia. I've been to New Zealand. I've been to Bermuda, lived there, even went back there to visit.
Have you been to like South America?
I've never been to South America. That's one of the places that I've never been. I've been to all of the Caribbean. I've been on so many cruise ships that I can't even remember how many I went on. And the reason that I did all this traveling is you have to go and familiarize yourself of the areas and what there is to do for fun and whatever, so that you can come back to your agency and sell that vacation.
Right.
So they would invite us to go on these, we called them fam trips, for familiarization trips.
Mm-hmm.
You go there and you get familiar with it, you fall in love with it, and you want to sell it. You know, go on a 7-day cruise. Go on a 4-day cruise, 3 or 4 day cruise, you know, or go to London, England, or Australia, or, you know.
Right.
And I'm so blessed that I have been to so many places that, and you know, as time goes on, some of the memories fade.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask me, have you been so-and-so, I could tell you yes or no, but it's hard for me to sit here and name every place that I've ever been.
Right.
I can remember when I went to China and I was at Tiananmen Square. I couldn't believe that I was at Tiananmen. I'm this southern gal that hardly ever went out of Georgia, and here I am in China, and I'm standing at Tiananmen Square, and I'm walking on the wall, the Great Wall of China,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm there, and it's like, what? This is me? It's like I had to videotape it. It was like I couldn't believe it. And then flying to Australia and going to New Zealand and flying in a little 4-passenger plane and landing on top of a glacier. I mean...
On top of a glacier?
Who does that, right? I did that.
Why were you on top of a glacier?
I did that because that was one of the things that we were able to do when we were there. That's one of the things they offered to us. And by the way, all this traveling, no matter where I went, everything was free for me because I worked in the business. And they invited me free of charge. Airline, everything was free.
Yeah, they want you to have a good time, so you'll sell it to everybody else.
Exactly. So this is one of the trips that we could do. And you take this little 4-passenger plane and, where's the plane going to take us? And, they're going to go up to this mountain and they're going to land on top of it. You're going to land on the glacier. I'm like, nah, that can't be. Well, it happened, and I've got a picture to prove it. Because once we got up there, we got out of the plane, and the pilot took a picture of each one of us standing in front of the plane. And I'm on the top of one of the largest mountains. I don't remember the name of it now. But I'm standing there in front of that plane on a glacier.
Wow.
It was amazing.
What memory sticks out the most from wherever you've been?
Well, that was one of them, mainly because that's the first time I had been on a 4-passenger plane. Mm-hmm. And the pilot had a real good personality, and he liked to cut up with us. And he did a little bit of stuff he shouldn't have done and kind of scared me a little bit. Like, he would get too close to the mountains, and it looked like you could reach out and touch them, but of course you couldn't because the wingspan was a lot longer than your arm. But he was getting a little bit too close to them. And, he would go up and then down and, real fast, and your stomach would stay up there and all that kind of stuff. So you don't forget stuff like that. So when we landed, I was so glad to get on the ground that I kissed the ground. I thought, I did that, but I'll never do it again. So that, because of the pilot and because of landing on a glacier, how many people do that? So that stands out to me more. And being on the China Wall, the Great Wall of China, that was, I couldn't believe that I was there.
So those two are the biggest memories for you.
Yeah, because it was so far from where I lived, and for me to wind up, I'm actually here on the Great Wall of China, and I'm a little Georgia girl. Mm-hmm. It's just like you don't believe it. So I think those two things, but I think the most fun and the place that I would love to live is New Zealand.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful, and the people were so friendly. I don't know, there was just something about that place that just captured me. And one day I want to go back there, but we'll see.
Will you have plans to go back, or?
I had a lot of plans one time of even talking to you about it. I would love to take you to Australia and New Zealand, and life happens. And sometimes you think you're going to do it and it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. But I still have life in me, so it could very well happen.
What about your trip to Alaska?
Now that was quite exciting, mainly because I traveled to Alaska totally by myself. Well, not exactly by myself, because I always feel like the Lord is with me, no matter where I go. Mm-hmm. And I was in a little Fiat, little 2-door Fiat, and I decided one day, you know what? I've been to most every state in the United States. I've been out of the country in so many different countries. Why not drive somewhere instead of flying? So I got in my little blue, is what I called it, which now, sadly to say, is I've sold it. But I got in my little blue and I drove to Alaska and back. I was gone for almost 30 days, and it was an amazing trip. And I'll tell you one thing about, you have to go through Canada to get to Alaska.
Right.
And I'll tell you something crazy that happened to me on one of the roads. In Canada, I was on what they called an expressway.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't expect that expressway to run out. And there were no signs. You know, you're thinking you're on an expressway. It's going to go forever. And if it does end, they're going to let you know.
Right.
You're going to get some signs or something. And here I am tootling, and I was probably speeding because I love to drive fast. And all of a sudden, no signs or anything. And I'm off the concrete and I'm into rocks in my little Fiat. I mean, I'm still here, so I survived that. But I just couldn't believe that happened. You know, why wouldn't there be a sign that you're running out of pavement and now you're on like a rocky road?
So it did just turn into another road.
It was a road, but no pavement. I mean, what do you call it what do you call those roads where all they have is like gravel? Yeah. It turned into a gravel road. And here I'm going about 80 miles an hour. You don't want to do that.
So what was the best part about the Canada trip? Or Canada to Alaska?
The best part was the people. Everywhere I went, they were just extremely nice. And every single night I stayed in a different place. What I would do is I would drive to this place, spend the night, get up the next morning and go to the next place. And I was gone about 28 days. And the only time that I stayed in the same hotel more than one night was when I actually got into Anchorage. I stayed in Anchorage for 2 nights. And then I went to another hotel a little bit out of Anchorage. But every single night I stayed at a different hotel. And every place that I stayed, they were very friendly, very welcoming. And I think I would have to say the people made the trip for me. And all that driving, all the way from where I used to live in Pahrump, where I still live in Pahrump. I drove from Pahrump, Nevada, all the way to Anchorage, Alaska, and back, and in my little Fiat. And I had a little incident coming back that I will have to tell you. It was kind of scary. I was driving in Canada, mm-hmm. and I see this great big truck that's got, it looked like rocks on the back, but I'm not sure about that. And all of a sudden, I get hit with a rock about the size of my hand in the windshield. Mm-hmm. And I thank the good Lord that rock didn't come all the way through. I did some research and found out why it didn't come all the way through. Is on the windshield, there's glass on each side, but there is a little thing. I don't know if it's plastic or it's some kind of thing that's between the glass, mm-hmm. that actually kept that rock. But if the rock had come all the way through the windshield and hit me, it would have hit me right straight in the forehead, which that could have been deadly. And it happened so fast, and I was going about 75 miles an hour, and that truck was probably going at the same speed. So you can imagine, and it happened so fast, and there was somebody behind me, and I had to use my brain not to panic and just keep going. You can't just slam on brakes in a case like that. Mm-hmm. So I just kept my wits about me and just kept going until I could pull off. And then I look, and then I've got this great big hole in my windshield on the outside, but it didn't come all the way in. But I had glass all in my lap, all in my face. And do you know the miracle about the whole thing? I didn't have one piece of glass in my eyes. Not one piece. And you would think that my eyes would just be covered with glass. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have any glass in my eyes, but it was on my face, on my chest, and my lap. So I had to stop, and get all that glass out of the car and everything. And then I thought, well, what am I going to do now? You know, this is dangerous for me to drive with this windshield busted like that. So where I was pulled off at one of these parks, and I was asking them, you know, where could I get something to protect it, because I was a long way from home.
Right.
And this person told me, he said, there's a Walmart, and they told me exactly where to go to. And they said, go in there and get you some of that. What kind of tape did he tell me that was? It's the tape that can work miracles. It can do all kind of things, but I can't remember what he called it. So anyway, I went in there and asked them if they had that special tape.
Mm-hmm.
And it was clear. And I can't believe I can't think of the name of that tape right now. But it's all kind of, you can use it for most anything. But anyway, I got the clear tape and I put it on my windshield, and it held until I could get back home and have somebody come out and change the windshield. So that was kind of scary. That's about the scariest thing that happened to me, except running off the expressway into a gravel road.
I think it's just called window glass tape.
Yeah, it's
That's the only thing that comes up on Google.
Anyway, it worked. And I got home safe and had the windshield changed once I got home. And you know, one thing I learned about, in Nevada, if you have to replace your windshield, that the insurance doesn't cover it.
Really?
I thought it would cover it, and I said, well, they said, well, you can call any insurance company and you'll find out they don't cover windshields. And I wonder if it's because of where we live, where there's so many rocks around.
That's got to be the reason.
You know, so many rocks coming in the windshield and there's so many broken. But I was actually in Canada when it happened, but I didn't want to have it fixed there because I wanted to get back home thinking my insurance is going to take care of it. Didn't.
So what you should have done is just got it fixed there.
Probably. Well, I don't know how much it would have cost in Canada either.
That's true.
You know, it might have been more expensive there. So, but anyway, I'm still here, still loving to travel. I've been to almost every state in the United States except 3.
What 3?
North Dakota. I went to South Dakota. I should have gone on into North Dakota, but I was on a deadline, so I just came on back. And I haven't been to Maine and Vermont. I want to go to Vermont, Maine, and North Dakota. And then I can say I've been to every... The main reason I want to go to Maine is I have been all the way as far as you can go in Florida. Down at Key West, I went all the way. Mm-hmm. I've been all the way on the West Coast, down south on the West Coast, down south on the East Coast. And as far as you can go north on the West Coast, but I have not been as far as you can go on the East Coast. So I want to do that.
When do you plan on doing that?
Well, now that I've sold my house and don't have a lot of responsibility now, I'd like to start traveling again next year.
You going to drive up there or are you going to fly?
Definitely going to drive. I have driven a lot, but I still enjoy it more than flying. When you're flying, all you see is clouds. Mm-hmm. When you're driving, you can see everything. And see, I flew so many hours, so many places. And all of that part of my life was very interesting and very rewarding, and I'm very grateful for it. But I'm done with flying. Because now, one thing is, I never got used to being at the airports, delays, and you're standing in this line, and you got to do this, and they were getting so ridiculous about everything, with so many crazy people doing terrible things and trying to take bombs on the plane, and you got to take your shoes off, and you got to be searched. And every time it seemed like to me, that I was taking a flight. I had to be searched. And one of my friends said, Cherie, please quit wearing so much jewelry and they will stop, searching you. And I said, is that why they search me? I don't know why they search me, but I just got tired of all that. It's such a hassle. Now all I have to do, get in my car
and go.
And just go.
So you wouldn't fly to another country or anything? You're done leaving the United States?
I'm done. I mean, you know what? You know what I found out? I have been to so many places, so many different countries. And I found out one very important thing. No matter where you go, whether it's in the country or out of the country, everybody is the same. Everybody is living their life. Everybody has their family. And they live. Mm-hmm. And they make memories. And they live. And everybody's the same. I don't care if you're in Italy. I don't care if you're in London, England. I don't care if you're in Australia or New Zealand or wherever. Everybody's the same. They're living life. You expect when you go to another place, well, they're going to be different than me. Mm-hmm. They're not. They're living their life. So.
Well, what do you think? We'll call the podcast here?
That we will call it?
Yeah, end it right here.
Oh, how long have we been talking?
A little over an hour.
Wow. Sounds good to me.
Well, thank you for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Hopefully you'll do it again. I really enjoyed it.
Well, now that I see how it is, maybe I won't be so nervous. And I want to apologize to the people. I probably talked too much. Probably didn't give you enough to say.
Mm-mm. You're fine.
But when I get nervous like that, I talk a lot.
You're perfectly fine.
But thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for coming on.
All right.